Hey traders, checking into the stock market today. Finally a bounce out there. Is this the low? Is this now going to lead to a new all-time high? Are the bulls back in complete control? I know what I'm looking for in two different scenarios tomorrow based on how we open, and I'll tell you in just a second. So SPY with a big green candle out there. What was the difference? Well, look at the pattern of a lower low every single day for the last 7 days. That pattern changed today. So we know the pattern had been higher opens with bears controlling the entirety of the morning. We opened first thing and we dipped and it was, here we go again. So heading into the open, I said, if the bulls are going to prove to us that this time is different, we need to break the high of pre-market. And if that high of pre-market breaks, then clearly the bulls will control the morning once after the bell rings. And again, that's when the real volume is in play. That's what we care about. So we ended up unable to break that level. We dropped down very notably. The bulls defended the low of yesterday by 22 cents. And then as soon as we V-shaped bounced to a new high of the day, we know, okay, this is different. Something is different about this morning. The bears don't have complete control because the previous 3 mornings, the bears would have controlled the first hour of trading, complete control. And as soon as you V-shape to a new high of the day, bears are not in control. So that told us, look in the other direction, keep an eye out. But we weren't convinced at that point because we have to change trends. A V-shaped move is great, but we need a 5-minute trend change. And we ended up going from low of the day to high of the day. We did break the high of pre-market, but we didn't confirm a 5-minute trend change. We then gave it back, and then we chopped around sideways. So while we were chopping around sideways, we knew, okay, this is different than the previous times. There's a battle going on. The bulls have shown us more than they've shown us in the previous 3 days, but we need a confirmed 5-minute trend change. And that's not going to happen unless we see a new high of the day. During this point in time when the bounce was taking place, it was XLF and XLV leading the way up, and QQQ was really weaker. And QQQ was weak, and Apple was weak, and Amazon was weak. Big tech was weak. So we know that the S&P 500 has a lot of exposure to the tech sector and to those names that I just mentioned, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Google. And if those individual names are not going up, then we know the SPY bulls are not going to get significant follow through. The only time that SPY bulls get significant follow through to the upside is when big tech is going up as well. I can't think of off the top of my head any example when big tech was dropping and SPY was going up significantly. So QQQ bulls had to prove it to us. QQQ needed to join the party for SPY bulls to have confidence. And there was a very clear level that presented itself as the level. We topped out on the initial bounce at 375.04. We then topped out at 375.05, double top into a new low of the day. Bears have control. So we know at that point in time, that's 10:10. What was SPY doing at 10:10? It was right here. And so we know I can't be confident in the SPY bulls to see notable follow through unless QQQ bulls confirm a 5-minute trend change here. We then bounced from the low of the day. We rejected 16 cents below resistance. Higher low, we then rejected 4 cents below resistance. And then we rejected 14 cents. You get the idea. It was very clear that this is the level that the bulls are going to have to break to prove anything to us. That break occurred at pretty much 12:21. And from that moment forward, the bulls had complete control for the rest of the day. Everything changed in that moment when that resistance broke. What was SPY doing at 12:21? Breaking out with everything else. Bulls controlled the entirety of the rest of the day. So that was the moment where everything changed. And it was just a very clear level on QQQ. And it was almost like just the gates being opened. All right, have at it, bulls. You're in control. Have your day. That being said, the vast majority of names that had strong bounces today have not changed hourly trends. We double bottomed at the low of yesterday. That's great. We held support, but we must confirm an hourly trend change if we're going to see daily bounce follow through. So we're going to open one of 2 ways tomorrow. We're going to gap up open, which bears will be all over it because they know we haven't consolidated on the hourly time frame. Or we're going to open lower and bulls will be scouting hourly higher lows on lower opens. And it is then up to the bulls to confirm the hourly trend changes by breaking the highs of today and seeing daily bounce follow through. If we gap up open, the bears are going to be looking to jump on it, but We can still look for an hourly trend change from that point. It just determines which direction am I looking on the morning in the first hour. And it depends on whether we open lower for an hourly high or low, or open higher for bears to jump on the gap up open into hourly consolidation. Looking at the S&P 500 futures chart, so we can draw that 12-hour uptrending support line that we've been keeping an eye on and still have it holding. And again, this is why I don't love trend lines as my guide, because you can always tweak it just a little bit to fit your narrative. And I can draw that trend line and it looks just fine. If I want to include this previous price action back here, then I would draw it right there. And I could say, yeah, one touch, just above it, 2, 3, and then held it again. The way I had it drawn before would have been like that. So it would have been just close again, just barely close below it. So as far as I'm concerned, we're holding the uptrend. And again, it's the SPY weekly EMA 12, which I'm keeping an eye on as well. And we bounced just above it. So is this it? Is that the bulls now taking complete control? Well, number one, what I need to see, I got rid of my volume by accident. But number one, what I need to see is a confirmed hourly trend change. We know the bulls aren't going anywhere in terms of meaningful follow through until we see a clear hourly higher low and higher high. So I need that tomorrow. From there, again, it's not bulls out of the woods. I still have to be cautious because the last thing the bulls want to see is a bounce to a daily lower high and lower low. That would confirm a daily downtrend, and that would have us say this time is different compared to the last times, because the last times we start a bounce, and again, this wasn't on a gap down. The last 3 bounces started on gap down opens, but it V-shaped. And how many days did it take? We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bounce days there, 4, 3. So what the bulls need to now do, and again, look at once that sentiment shifted, there was no doubt about it. Multiple big green days in a row. So number one, if we're red tomorrow, it's going to be different. Have to be green for follow through. And then we're looking at bounce retracement size. So the pullback from the all-time high, these bulls want to get 50% and above. We don't have to V-shape for the bulls to keep control. Look at this previous time 4 times ago. We bounced, we set a lower high, we held support, and then we confirmed a daily trend change back to the bulls. So that can play out as well. But the bulls want a 50% retracement to create the space for a daily higher low to form. And we're almost there. If we have a green day tomorrow, it'll be a 50% retracement. That all-time high is certainly not far away from where we stand. Wow, 1.3%, that's nothing. But again, we just have to be cautious to not let the bears surprise us with a lower high and lower low. So green day tomorrow, hourly confirmed trend change, and it'll be looking like the previous times as far as a clear shift. And then the hourly uptrend will be our guide from that point. QQQ, again, the daily chart for QQQ has remained stronger looking than other sectors. There are no red flags on this bigger picture daily chart. Support was 371.97. We held that level. Again, we have to confirm the hourly trend change because we went straight off the low. Have to see the higher low and higher high. And if we get the hourly trend change confirmed, we're looking right back up towards the all-time high. Just cautious to ensure we don't confirm a daily downtrend with a lower high and lower low. The financial sector, daily inside bar. It's been all over the map as far as a red day, green day, red day, green day, red day, green day. You get the idea. Inside bar and just a bit of a choppy mess. So whenever we're breaking support and breaking resistance, we know to be scouting the potential of a megaphone pattern. So a little bit choppy on XLF. Helped the bulls today as far as being green, but we need conviction for a weekly higher low to be established. 37.22 weekly support, we held it by 16 cents. We're holding weekly EMA 12, but we do need more follow through to have confidence a weekly higher low is shaping up. XLV, daily bounce took place today. Again, not meaningful. We need a big enough bounce to create the space. We're in a daily downtrend. Well, I take that back. We lost the daily uptrend. We didn't confirm a daily downtrend, but the bulls need a big enough bounce to create the space for a daily higher low to form once we top out. Follow through needed, hourly trend change needed, and XLF needs an hourly trend change as well. Everybody needs an hourly trend change. And all you got to do, look at all the individual names. Apple needs an hourly trend change. Amazon needs it. Tesla, we're in an hourly uptrend from the past few days, but you get the idea. Tons of individual names need the hourly trend changes, and that's the proof that the bulls have to give us tomorrow. IWM, daily inside bar. So for IWM and growth names, we're watching weekly uptrends, and we're trying to set weekly higher lows to keep these uptrends intact. And we know weekly higher lows are set when bulls regain daily uptrends in their favor. Today was just an inside bar. The daily bounce hasn't even started meaningfully on IWM. We need the hourly trend change, and we need daily bounce follow through. But with that, we're looking at all these growth names trying to do the same. XBI, trying to set a weekly higher low. Certainly a lot more proving needs to be done. TAN, the solar sector, trying to set the weekly higher low. Nice tightening weekly range the last couple of months. Who else in growth? PLTR is looking real good for growth. Positioned very well. Bull break today, and we're looking right up at 2750. This is a weekly cup and handle pattern, just as far as our very clear resistance, inability to break resistance, bull flag on the weekly, and now trying to break out. So if the IWM bulls and if the growth bulls take back over, PLTR is a name that is positioned very well for it. ARKK, trying to set a weekly higher low. It's just a classic equilibrium. Again, this is definitely worth keeping an eye on. How this multiple month, this is now 3 month plus in the making, how this breaks is going to be impactful as far as midterm direction, potentially multiple month direction that we're going to be looking based on how this tightening range breaks. But the bottom line for everybody is the bulls have a lot of proving to do. Yeah, great, you bounced for a day, but give me multiple days, give me a daily trend change shaping up. Bulls pretty much need to control. We got quad witching on Friday, and that's going to be a big day as well. But bulls pretty much need to control tomorrow, ideally Friday, but most of next week as well. If we're going to be saying, okay, back to business as usual, back to looking at all-time highs, bulls back in the driver's seat. Cannabis stocks. So US MJ had a stronger day than Canadian MJ, and that stands out to us whenever it happens because it doesn't happen often. And that's because Canadian MJ is traded on the NASDAQ and the NYSE, and the majority of US MJ, or at least the MSOs, are traded on the OTC. And they don't have the same kind of dollar volume, they don't have the same attention, they don't have the same people trading them, they don't have the same bots and algos that correlate them. MSOS is the ETF for USMJ. It is on the NYSE, and it had a big bounce day. So oversold bounce on the daily, clearly underway. Anything under 33.46 is just a daily lower high, but the size of the bounce at this point is significant as far as retracement. We have now bounced over 382 and need to get 50% and beyond. We're going to be watching daily EMA resistance. We have not confirmed the hourly trend change, so that has to happen. The volume definitely stands out to us on the bounce, but we're just scouting a daily lower high, and the bulls must confirm a daily trend change. When's the last time we've seen a daily higher low and higher high? I mean, we had a couple little ones in here, so if we're counting those, then we'll say it's been 6 weeks since that has happened. So bulls have follow through that they have to prove to us. The most aggressive bulls are playing off this low and hoping it's a longer term momentum and sentiment shift. We would likely need to see IWM confirm a monthly bull flag if that's going to help growth take the spotlight again. But it's something after a very brutal previous last week. And looking at Canadian MJ, they're not doing anything. They have a ton of proving to do. Weak bounce, still lower high everyday pattern. And again, we need 2 more green days in a row to even think about shaping up a daily trend change. So burden of proof, certainly on bulls. Natural gas, big upper wick of profit taking. Looks like a volume climax and a temporary top being set. And again, we've been in massive breakout mode for the last month. But I just want to highlight the importance of historical RSI levels, because I use them often in my analysis. And if I can look back and look at years of price action and say that this has happened 3 times in the last 3 years, and this was how it played out. When I have that information, it gives me a trade game plan to set up, or at least has me the direction to be looking that I then establish a trade game plan around. And CGC is the most profitable stock that I've ever traded in aggregate. And many times I've used 4-hour historical bounce RSI, 4-hour historical oversold RSI levels to trade bounces that have resulted in some of my bigger wins in that name. So for natural gas today, I looked at the 12-hour RSI and I just noted, okay, where have we been topping out on this massive bull run? We topped out at just under 87, just under 85, and then I look back years and years, and we had one other pop up to 86s. Nope, we got up to 92. That was the massive short squeeze that liquidated hedge funds. So that was back in 2018. So we got 3 years where the RSI has pulled back at its highest point from 87 and 85. And this morning, I looked at natural gas's 12-hour RSI, and at that point, it was up at, I want to change the settings so I can see where it topped out, but it was up at 85 or so. So I say, okay, well, we've been pulling back for this area. It's worth scouting a short. And we then had a climax top with the last surge up from the bulls, and then a big drop down from profit taking and from the bears. And the point is, again, I'm not trading natural gas, but the point is the historical RSI had us looking in the direction for a pullback in a name that was extremely bullish. Aggressive bears keeping an eye on UNG for an entry, watching Nat Gas, USD hourly uptrend resistance. There's an uptrend resistance line that I was watching as well. Stop loss certainly mandatory because we are trading against the momentum, but watching for a temporary climax to be hit. And we climaxed for about 15 minutes above that resistance line and then dumped right back below it. And again, our biggest climax moves see a huge move up and then a big drop, 180-degree turnaround very fast. And then the opposite direction as well with bounces. We just flush and then V-shape. So this is the obvious, or I should say the opposite of a V-shaped bounce. But now we have an hourly equilibrium shaping up, and we know equilibriums are the result after volatility. And if we break 5298, then we have confidence that daily consolidation is likely shaping up. And again, we're still in an uptrend on a ton of these time frames. So it's really just a short-term indication of a temporary top because now we have the 12-hour RSI cooling off. And 12-hour, anything above 487, which is 10% away, is a 12-hour high or low. But again, just a volume climax. And looking at UNG, daily chart, volume climax, and just a big drop. Tons of volatility. You know, natural gas has enough volatility for day traders out there to trade UNG, and it's not even leveraged, and it doesn't need to be. From that high to the low of that pullback, ended up with a 6% drop in just about an hour and a half. So certainly very notable. A couple places to be watching. So I like to have things organized in my mind or on paper, names that are positioned well if SPY is giving us the weekly high or low, and names that are positioned poorly if SPY were to keep pulling back. Weaker versus stronger. So for names like DKNG, and again, it was a stair-step top fishing short that played out very well, but at this point, we're scouting a daily high or low with tons of space for it to form. So if the S&P 500 is setting a weekly high or low, we're looking at DKNG to set a daily high or low and get a bounce going. We're looking at Netflix to do the same. Netflix is coming off the all-time high. And a daily, not an inside bar today. We broke the low of yesterday, but only by pennies, essentially a double bottom, and scouting the bounce. Likewise, I could be an aggressive bull looking for these daily bounces and try and position myself. Maybe I want to try for swing trades, or I can be a patient bear knowing that the most likely scenario, it's not likely that Netflix is going to V-shape to an all-time high. If we get a couple days of bounce here, we're scouting a lower high compared to the all-time high. And that would be a scenario where if SPY bounces, fails the all-time high, and confirms a daily downtrend, which again has not happened on this kind of consolidation in as long as I can remember, Aggressive bears are scouting daily lower highs on some of these names. Tesla is another name that's positioned really well for bulls, holding the daily EMA 12 and up near its recent high. So again, just have your names both bull and bear. Who are you looking at? If SPY gives us red flags, who are you looking at bearish? If SPY bounce continues, who are you looking at bullish? And QQQ, and there's a lot of big tech names that are still holding on just fine for the bulls. Microsoft is right under the all-time high, and it had some bullish news, dividend, and buyback. So that's where we stand. Hope you had a good day. Don't forget to do good things, and we will see you tomorrow. So you got all these dead sunflowers, and someone might look at that and say, oh, that's ugly or overgrown. And that was my initial thought, like, okay, time to take these down and clear this bed out. But then while I was out here working, it's just happening right now. I was just about to tell you. Hummingbirds come and land on it. And the sun's probably not letting you see this one, but there's a hummingbird 10 feet in front of me. Well, that was funny, but that was the story. I was here outside working and saw 2 hummingbirds come and land on them. And I said, all right, well, that's a good enough purpose to just leave them up. This flower vine, again, completely forget the name, is doing really well, so we're going to build a much sturdier trellis, and next spring we're going to run it with a rope to that tree and see what it can do. Zinnias are still going. They got pretty beat up with the flood, but still putting out new flowers.